Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So the first Fireside Chat, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome Alicia, who's the founder of Skimlinks. Myself, I'm the managing partner of Frog Capital. We focus on supporting CEOs through the scale-up phase in Europe. So Alicia, tell us a little about your business.
Yes, so Skimlinks has been around about 9 years. We're the leading content-to-commerce monetization platform for publishers. So we work with the big guys like Condé Nast, BuzzFeed, Refinery29, Business Insider, and we help them make money from the products they write about. And then we use all that data to create models that predict shopping behaviors and then license that to anyone that wants to identify potential buyers of their products. So we now run on about 1.5 million websites and see about $1 billion worth of e-commerce sales each year through our platform.
Fantastic. So what you've done a fantastic job of is becoming the leading player in your market, in your space, and the particular focus on content, I think, has been a really strategic one for Alicia in terms of the issues with the rest of the industry. So as the whole audience probably knows, that there's been a huge amount of change in digital media. So Alicia, what are the big things that are going on right now?
Yeah, it's certainly not a place to be if you want quiet and stability. So the ad tech space and the whole publishing and media space has been really tumultuous and interesting. So here's three of the big sort of trends that we're seeing. The first is clearly the dominance of the big duopolies. So Google and Facebook are behemoths that are devouring a lot of the ad spend. So Google accounts for about 40% of ad spend at the moment, Facebook about 20%, and actually for every new dollar that's being spent online, these two companies are devouring 80% of that, which leaves like 20% for every other publisher and ad tech company out there. That's a challenge that's made even worse by the fact that Amazon, no small company, is quickly developing their own advertising business. They're small at the moment, but they're growing very rapidly. And because they have so much conversion data, they're going to be a real force to be reckoned with in the ad tech space, leaving less for all the other players.
So wow, you're saying that out of every new dollar of advertising, Google and Facebook are taking 80% of that today, and that hasn't even accounted for Amazon coming up on the rails.
That's correct. And no other player has got more than 5%. So
wow.
Everyone else is just tiny fry trying to pick up the scraps. So that's a challenge. The second is the growth of ad blockers. So at the moment, 26% of desktop users and 15% of mobile users now have ad blockers. So that's another challenge that's affecting any online business that monetizes through display advertising. And then the third big change, particularly affecting Europe, is GDPR, the words that make me gag, and the growth of ITP. Does anyone, just a quick hands up in the audience, who knows what ITP is?
Anyone heard of ITP?
So ITP is Intelligent Tracking Prevention that has just come out with Apple's release of iOS 11. It's turned on by default. And what it basically does is, unless you can refresh a cookie within 24 hours, they kill it. So this is great for Facebook and Google that have a reason to refresh cookies on a daily basis, but for every other ad company that relies on third-party cookies to be able to do their attribution and tracking, it's quite destructive to their business. Criteo's stock price has already been affected by it, and we're going to see a lot of fallout, I think, in the next few weeks as as adoption of iOS 11 increases.
Okay, so Google ITP to learn that you heard it today. So with all this going on, so what are the opportunities? Clearly, it's still a big market, though. So what are you doing about it, and what do you see as the opportunities?
Yeah, well, it is a big market. So at the moment, the online advertising space is $10 billion in size, and the global ad spend is about $224 billion. And it's still growing. It's growing 17% year on year. And actually, for every new dollar of spend, 77% of that is going online. So dollars are moving from offline to online, and it's still a growing space globally.
Yeah, because that's interesting, because a lot of people have been saying sometimes maybe there's been a bit of a fight back from ATL TV advertising, but what you're saying is actually still online growth globally is making good progress.
It is, and I think the reason for that is its inherent trackability. Like, I think as more and more people are becoming more cautious about their spend, the beauty of online is that it's attributable in some way, and so people that are more cautious with their spend are going to spend it in a place where they...
Clearer ROI, more measurable, makes sense.
Exactly. Then the second big opportunity, I think, especially with the regulation and sort of technology changes that are coming, are more and more businesses online are needing to move towards first-party cookies, and anyone actually that relies on first-party rather than third-party cookies is going to be in a stronger position. It's going to mean that we'll see a lot of companies that that focus on building a relationship with their customers, that focus on trust and proximity to their customers, because they're the ones that are going to have a dialogue. They're the ones that are going to be able to ask for money or ask for consent. And companies that are not close to the end user will struggle in a post-GDPR world. Yeah. And then the third area, I think, of trends that we're going to see is innovation around other ways to monetize online. I think that there's been a historical focus on display advertising and innovations around optimizing display advertising. But as so much of display advertising relies on third-party cookies, we're going to see, I think, a lot of innovation around alternate means of monetization that rely less on third-party and more on first-party cookies or a closer relationship to the customer. So native advertising solutions will probably do quite well. They tend to be looked well upon, or better at least, by the ad blockers. We're going to see more growth in commerce, and this is obviously an area that Skimlinks focuses on, and we see a lot of, all the main publishers that we work with have dramatically increased their investment in commerce. You look at someone like Condé Nast, who has doubled down and built a whole commerce department. You look at BuzzFeed.
And when you say commerce, just to explain to the audience, what does that actually mean in real terms of what are Condé Nast actually doing? These guys, what are they building?
So Condé Nast will call it service journalism or content as a utility. So rather than it being all about content being about just editorial news, the way that Condé Nast sees it is content also forms the role of providing a service journalism. And we help people not just with news, but we help them understand what to buy, we help them with what to cook, with where to party, etc. So the role of what to buy is a role that publishers are now recognizing that they have a voice, that they can leverage their audience, and that they can provide that service of curating content around what products and brands and shopping trends you should invest in, and users love it. Like, what's crazy is that this is not sponsored content. This is actual content that people like to read and that they engage with. And you look at the success of publishers like The Wirecutter, which got acquired by the New York Times. You look at the success of Refinery29 and BuzzFeed, that's raised incredible amounts of finance. And the reason that they have that success is because they have not just a casual relationship with their audience, they actually have a voice of trust, and people come to these sites to research the purchase of something. And so when people come to these sites to research the purchase of something and click through, these publishers are then able to make a commission on that sale. So that transaction represents not just an additional form of revenue for the publisher, which is completely incremental to all their other forms of monetization, but, and this is where it's kind of cool, and Skimlinks does this too, is gives them data on the shopping behaviors and preferences of their users. And the really savvy publishers will use that data to inform their future content creation, their audience development strategies, and so on. So we're going to see, I mean, pretty much every large publisher now you'll start to see will have a strong commerce strategy. And by commerce, I don't mean that they sell stuff. I mean that they write about products that you might want to buy.
So they're getting much, much closer to the point of decision.
Exactly,
they're not doing it themselves. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's actually, I mean, we've seen a lot of publishers try to sell products themselves, but that's less successful than them actually writing about it and earning a commission on that. And that's a very a safer form of revenue than a lot of the others.
Okay, great. Okay, with a minute to go, maybe look a little bit further out. What do you see on the horizon around what else is around the corner?
I think that as the publishers struggle to make money just on advertising alone, and users get increasingly sick of it, we're going to see something very similar in the publishing space as we've seen on the television space. So we've gone from people watching television and bearing with ads to paying for Netflix and Hulu subscriptions, where for a small amount a month they can watch everything that they like with no ads. I believe that that's going to move onto the online publishing space, and we're going to see a big trend in micropayments, perhaps using blockchain, but we're going to see users being offered the choice of whether to see an ad or to have a micropayment as a form of digesting that content. And I think that that's probably not a bad thing for the industry.
Okay, well, Time's up. Thank you very much, Alicia. That
you.
was fantastic. You built a brilliant business over a long time,
you.
and I think it's really interesting, particularly in terms of the mega themes. So hope you enjoy the conference, and I hope you enjoy the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everyone.